Now this is the final class of the AZON Masterclass 2 series. And in today's class, we're going to be learning about the final phases of guest blogging. This will be the soliciting end of it and landing the deals and following up with these deals that we have made. And then I am also going to be concluding this series with some additional tips for you guys for future expansion with your website. Obviously, I've recommended for you to do a lot of things, but since this is an ongoing type of website, I wanted to give you some extra tips and ideas that kind of go a little above and beyond what I've already covered in the series. So in today's class, a large majority of what I need to teach you is largely informational based. So I do have a webinar slideshow put together for today's class. I will be jumping off of the slideshow a couple of times to demonstrate a few different things, but for the most part, tonight's class will be in the slideshow. So to start out with, I want to talk to you about each of the two strategies, soliciting for guest bloggers and soliciting to get people to guest blog or to guest blog for other people. Now I'm going to start with soliciting for guest bloggers. This is where you have found other people that have written good articles relational to your subject and you believe they have a good social media following that they could promote articles that they write to. And so you want to be contacting each of these potential candidates to figure out who is interested in working with you and who is not, and to get some terms solidified for your deal that you arrange with them. Now, before you just dive into starting to contact people, even though you will not need this information immediately to actually start contacting them, I would highly recommend that you still gather this information together and have it at your disposal. That way, when people start getting in touch with you, replying to your messages, you will have all this information ready to go to send back out to them. Now, your initial goal here is not really to land a long-term deal with somebody where they will be offering articles to your site on a regular basis. What you're really looking to do is test the water here. You're trying to figure out who is good and who is not, who is worth the time and effort to get them to write these articles for you, because you want to have these people that are going to also be able to cross-promote your articles and send them extra traffic. So first of all, your research log that you have put together, this would be from the previous class where you've gone through, researched information about each of your potential candidates and recorded their contact information, their follower counts, etc. You want to pull this back out and go through these people one by one and contact them, but you also want to consider what you're willing to pay them if you are offering to pay to have articles done for your site. Now, with that in mind, you do not necessarily have to be paying people to contribute articles to your website. It's really just about who you find. If you found somebody that looks like they would be a good fit for your site, but they look like they don't have much of a following, or maybe they're even new like you are, instead of offering to pay them for articles, you can be a little heavier in terms of offering them other benefits that can help to increase their website traffic and their exposure. So your ultimate goal is kind of to figure out what each of these people would be more interested in receiving for this content that they're going to be contributing to your website. Because ultimately, if you can't figure that out and offer that to them, it's really going to be difficult to get a decent number of people to do this for you. Now, I really recommend not paying more than about $5 to $10 for an article unless you have a really good reason to do so. If somebody has thousands or tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of social media followers, it could be worthwhile to pay them $50 or $100 to write an article for your site. But for the average person that might only have 100 or maybe even 1,000 followers, you're not going to want to stray above the $5 to $10 mark. And this would be for maybe a 500 to 800 word article. Now, you're not just outright paying them for that article, you are also going to be offering them some return exposure on your own website. So they're going to get a backlink, for example, to their own site from the article that they write for you. They would also get things like social media links and any other additional benefits that you might be willing to offer them. For example, if somebody guest blogs for you, you can always offer to return the favor and also contribute an article to their site. This way, at least if you do not have available funds to go out and offer people to pay for these articles, and if you don't have these other benefits that could entice them to want to do so for free, like having a decent social media following, you can offer to do more of an exchange where they give you an article and you give them an article. So whatever your situation may be, there should be some way that you can go about doing this that will fit your situation and work for your website. Now, other information that you need to be gathering, basically anything having to do with your social media, your newsletter list, your website traffic, any kind of instant traffic that you could possibly have access to that may be able to benefit this person that's guest blogging for you, have this information handy too, because these can be big selling points for you. Now, I have a page set up for you guys. You can find this in the course material for today's class, or you can also visit the URL that you see on your screen. However, you will need to be logged into your Azon Masterclass 2 account to be able to access this page. And this page, which I will be pulling up for you, is used to generate your guest blog soliciting messages. Now, I have a separate page set up, which I will get on to talking to you guys about in a few here, which is going to be used for the other end, for when you want to be the person contributing articles to somebody's website. So this page is just used for when you want other people to be contributing to your website. So you have a number of pieces of information that you're going to have to enter in here. But ultimately, the information that you need to get this message started, and also the end result of the message, is not intended to be very complicated. You actually want to be sending a fairly simple and straightforward message to these people to get a higher response rate. This helps to open the line of communication with them, and then you can work on the exact details of your agreement and what you'll be offering them and what they will be giving you in exchange. So to start with here, these first two text fields, their first name and where you found them, this information should be coming from your research log. Go through it and simply enter in a person's name. Could be Bob, and then enter in where you found them. This could be a particular website, you can really specify whatever you would like to get specific about where you found this person. But at the very least, just provide a domain name where you found this person's article. So I'm just going to put in cars.com. Obviously, Bob from cars.com does not exist. He's a fictitious person. But for the purpose of generating this message for you guys, this is going to be the minimal amount of information that you really need to be punching in to do this. Everything else down here is information that pertains to you. So this is your name, your website, and your niche focus. So here I would just put Ryan Stevenson. Down below I put carbonfanatic.com. And finally I have my niche focus at the bottom. Now the niche focus is really the one part that I would say to stop for a second, pay a little bit of attention to it, and try and come up with something creative to put here. What I would recommend to do is start out by listing what your specific niche focus is of your website. So for me, this would be carbon fiber vinyl. Then I would recommend continuing on to list a slightly more general subject matter that you would still be interested in having content about on your website. For me, this could be anything like other car-related subjects. It could also be really any other vehicle-related subject matters. So you just want to have this in all lowercase text here. And this gives them a bit of an idea of what kind of content you would be willing to accept on your site. Ultimately, if you have particular things that you want people to be writing about, when you get to the follow-up in where you're going to be working out the deal with them, that's really when you can worry about getting into those specifics. However, if you are dealing with a lot of industry experts that likely have a lot more knowledge about a subject than you do, you may just want to give them some general guidelines as far as what you want the article topics to be about, and ultimately let them choose the exact topics, because they may be able to come up with some much better topics than you could. So once you have this information provided here, all you have to do is click on the Generate button, and then this is going to generate the message that you're going to send to them. You can send this to them any way that you have contact information recorded for them, but I would really recommend just to start with one. Pick one of the possible ways you have to contact them, send this message to them in that manner, and then wait a week to see if you hear back from them or not. If you do not hear back from them, go back to your list and pick another contact method and try again. Repeat this process until you either do hear back from them or until you simply run out of ways to contact them. This is why you want to have multiple contact methods for any possible person that you would want to work with, because some people might be more active on Facebook, and if you only recorded their Twitter account and that's where you go to send them a message at, then you may never reach them. So I really recommend to try a variety of different ones, but don't pile it all on them at once. Just in case they are monitoring all of those different ones, you don't want them to feel like you're spamming them to try to get in touch with them. So now, this message right here, if you read through it, you can see that this is a really simple message. Like I was talking to you about before, you don't want to overwhelm them with this initial contact. You want to essentially pique their interest in what it is that you're doing and talking about and offering to them here, It's hinting at hiring them as a guest contributor for your website. And a lot of people will simply look at this, and if they have any desire to get paid to write content for another website, they'll be all over this. And even more so, even if they're not necessarily looking for monetary compensation, there's also information in here about building a mutually beneficial relationship by working together. And so it also helps to appeal to other people that may be looking for cross promotions for their own website. So you're encouraging the person to get back in touch with you here, so then you can iron out the exact details of your deal. Now, to proceed on from here, I want to talk about when you hear back from these potential candidates. Ultimately, you're going to have to craft your own email or message depending on what you are looking to have done with this arrangement, and also depending on how you want to set up that deal. I have a few guidelines for you, though, that I would really recommend to be sure to include this type of information in your follow-up messages. Figure out what your expectations are with this initial contact. You're not looking to set up a long-term deal here again. You're just looking to get something arranged to have one article contributed by this person to your website, so you can kind of get a feel for how it will go with that particular person and to see if it is beneficial for you and worthwhile to continue. So as far as your expectations go with this article that you want them to write, you need to get really specific, or else you can really end up getting a wide range of work that gets sent back to you. Make sure you tell them that you are looking for completely unique content. Let them know whether you are looking for any images to be included, and also what type of images those should be. Obviously you don't want people to be just pulling a copyrighted image off of another website and slapping it up onto your website. Whatever type of article size or topic you would like for them to cover, make sure you get specific about that, unless you are leaving the actual topic selection up to them, but still give them some general guidelines to work with so you can be sure that that topic will be a good fit for your audience. Also, let them know what you expect them to do in terms of a return promotion. When you publish that article on your site, you want that person to be promoting that article on your site with their social media accounts, their newsletter list, maybe even putting a link to it from their website. Whatever the case may be, get specific about this ahead of time so they know to expect this. So they'll just go ahead and do it as soon as you let them know that this article has been published. Because ultimately, if you can't get some of these extra little things tied in, like that promotion from their social media accounts, you're not really getting a lot of benefit. The goal here is not just to get content for your site, but it's to get content and traffic. You're trying to tap into the audience of these other writers. Whatever you're going to be allowing in terms of backlinks in the article to the writer's website, make sure that you are specific about that too. It could be a link or two in the last paragraph of the article. It could be links in the profile, social media links in the profile, whatever the case may be really specific about that as well. Because if you have people that are used to contributing articles to a lot of different websites, you have these different rules that people will be having to follow on these different websites. So you can easily end up getting all these articles that you have to go back through and edit links out of, or do all these other things to get them to fit with what you're actually trying to achieve on your website. And ultimately, you don't want to have to be bothered by that kind of stuff when you are having somebody else do these articles for you. You just want to do a final proofread, give it a once over to make sure it's following all the rules, and get it published on your website. Whatever monetary compensation you're going to be offering them, make sure you're specific about that in this follow-up email. Other benefits that you're going to be offering. This could be a wide variety of different things that I've already talked about, exchanging articles with them where you're doing one for their site every time they do one for your site, for example. You may just want to get started by saying, hey, you do one for me and I'll do one for you, and we'll cross-promote each other's articles, and we'll see how things go and see if it's worthwhile to pursue into the future. You also want to let people know what your newsletter and social media account followers and subscribers are at this particular point in time, but only if you're offering that as a benefit. If you're just offering them payment and you're maybe including some backlinks in the profile on your website, because you're just getting started and you don't have these social media followers, then obviously leave that out of this follow-up email. But if you are offering those cross promotions as a benefit, make sure you are actually specific with what those numbers are. And if you have some past results from other guest bloggers that you've done this with, maybe even provide some of that information as well to help to entice these people to make a final deal with you. You can also offer up miscellaneous credentials for your website. If you have a lot of traffic on your site, for example, and you're offering them backlinks and all these profile links to their social media accounts and stuff, obviously a lot of traffic on your website is going to be really beneficial for them. So when you get to the point where you have all of these other benefits that you can offer, you have this traffic and your social media accounts, you can eventually get rid of the monetary compensation that you are throwing out there, because simply contributing an article to your website for those extra benefits would be more than worthwhile for these people. And the monetary compensation, they'll get that taken care of on their own end from getting traffic from you. Now, as I was talking to you about before, your initial goal with a potential candidate should be to get them to contribute just one article to you, and this allows you to gauge how effective this campaign is with that particular person. Once you get them to actually agree to contribute that first article to you, then you want to go and set up an account for them on your website. This was something that I had talked about preparing your website for in the previous class. Then make sure when you're sending them the account information so they can log in and put the article on your website to have it sit there and wait for your approval, also be sure to direct them to fill out their profile to get those backlinks and the social media links or whatever other benefits that you have offered them. Now, when you receive an article, when somebody has submitted it on your site and it's sitting there waiting for your approval, make sure you proofread that article very, very thoroughly. I'm really talking about the first time that you're giving this a shot, especially because you want to see what kind of work you can expect out of this particular person. You're looking for obvious things like grammar and spelling mistakes. But beyond that, you also want to make sure that they're essentially living up to their end of the bargain and being honest with you. Since you asked for and agreed on receiving unique content, you want to go and make sure that that content does not already exist somewhere online. Now, Copyscape.com is a place that I'm sure all of you guys have heard of. You can use them to try to figure out if your content exists somewhere else or not. But something else that you could do, fairly simple. Let's say this page right here, let's say this is an article that somebody contributed to my website. And I wanted to find out if this article is unique content or not. Something that I can do is to take a selection of this article and copy it and go over to Google and simply put this in quotation marks. I put quotes before it and I put quotes behind it. Now you can do this with a variety of different pieces of the content that you're receiving. You could select a paragraph, you could select a single sentence, or maybe even just select a couple of key phrases or something within there, and see if you can find that information exactly on another website somewhere. You can see right here, no results found for this. If you put it in an exact quote and it can't find results like that, you know for sure that that exact content does not exist somewhere else on the internet, at least not that Google has indexed. Now, there's always things like article spinning that could obviously get around this type of a check here. So make sure you are also clear that you are not looking for spun articles when you are getting that type of content, but proofreading an article, you should be able to tell whether or not that article is spun content, simply because you're going to find some words and things mixed in there that just really don't seem like they fit. Something's just not going to make proper sense as you are proceeding through their article and reading it. So just make sure you are checking up on the work that you are receiving, at least initially when you are first getting started with the person, because you need to be sure before you decide to go on and do future work with this person, to make a long-term commitment with them perhaps. You need to be sure that they're actually delivering to you what you had agreed upon. Now finally, once your article that you have had contributed to you is published on your website, let the other writer know so they can follow up with their end of the bargain, doing those extra promotions on that particular article. They should be, at the very least, promoting it to their social media accounts and possibly even other things like their newsletter list or putting a link on their website if you can get those additional things worked out. Now the next thing that I would like to talk about is the next strategy, soliciting to guest blog for other people's websites. This is where you are looking to offer them an article and it would be published on their website instead. Now, I shared a lot of article sites with you guys in the previous class. Those are places that you could go to do exactly this, to guest blog for other websites. And a lot of those websites will even pay you for your articles that you are writing, in addition to giving you exposure for your own website or for your own social media accounts. Whenever you are guest blogging for another website using this strategy, make sure you keep your focus on increasing the exposure and audience and earnings for your own website, and don't solely focus on getting directly paid for writing each and every article, because obviously If you are contributing to another website and you're writing relational niche content and getting it published on their site, and nothing on that website gives a reader any indication about you being the author of it. You know, they have no way to get back to your website or to follow your social media accounts. Ultimately, you're just writing articles and getting paid for them here. You're not doing anything to actually benefit your website. You could be better off possibly publishing that content on your own website if, you know, it is that relational content. So with that in mind, just make sure that you are keeping your focus on what the goal of this strategy really is. It can be tempting to get a little sidetracked and pump out a bunch of articles for these sites that will pay you for them, and this can be something that is worthwhile doing when you're first getting started if you're a little short on funds and you need some money to perhaps pay other people to contribute articles to your website. It can be a great way to help out, but you don't want to completely get distracted by that, and remember that the whole purpose of doing this is to help to build your own audience for your website. Now, before you actually proceed with contacting sites about guest blogging for them, you also want to gather information kind of similar to what you did for when you're soliciting to get people to guest blog for you. You want to pull out your research log again. Any website that you are interested in guest blogging for them, you want to pull them out and create a message that you can send to contact them with. You also want to gather together your social media and email newsletter followers and subscribers. You need the counts for these because this is information that you may actually be including in this initial contact attempt with these sites, because the message that you want to send these people is going to be different from the previous one, because you ultimately have a different goal here, and you are also trying to convince people of something else. It's a little bit harder sometimes to convince somebody to let you contribute an article to them if you are asking for all these benefits. So instead, I like to try to gear it more towards the benefits that I can offer them for them allowing me to do this. Now, I have another page that I've created for you guys, and this page here, the URL on the screen, or you can also find the link to this in the course material, is just like the first page that I had created and showed you guys, except this one is obviously for getting people to allow you to guest blog for them. Now, this page asks for a little bit more information than the previous one did. However, you may notice that these bottom 4 boxes are labeled as being optional. If you leave this information out when you're generating this page here, then it will simply omit that information from the message that it creates for you. So at the very, very least, you need these top 4 boxes filled out here. And this is actually identical information to what you were providing the first time around. You have their first name, your first and last name, your website domain, and your niche focus again. You do all of these just like you did the other ones, how I had already talked to you about. The only thing you're really leaving out here that you did before was specifying where you found them, because you're not going to be talking about an article that they wrote on this other website. You're just more interested in contributing for their site. Now, in addition to this you have this follower data down below that you can choose to include if you would like to. So you could put in whatever your numbers may be. I'll just punch in 200 for each of them for this example, and then generate the message off of this information. As you can see here, this message is a little bit longer than the last one, but it's still pretty short and to the point overall. And if you're not including your follower data right here, it's going to wipe out this entire paragraph. So without that, it'll still end up being a fairly short message. But the entire point here is to convince them that you are a worthwhile candidate to be contributing content to their website. You tell them that you're the leading contributor for your website, and you would love to have the opportunity to contribute content for their site as well. You let them know what your writing revolves around. This is where the niche focus comes into play here. And then you go on to tell them that your content is always 100% unique too. Anybody that receives this email and has a website of their own that relates to your niche would almost certainly be more than happy to get some completely unique content contributed to them, especially if they don't have to pay anything for it. Now, you also go on to mention here that you'd be happy to promote the article that you're going to write on their website to your own readers. And this will help to build additional traffic from them for the contribution. So you're really going into a little bit of detail here about what you can do for them. You're not focusing on what they're going to be able to do for you. That is what you want to be talking about later on once you hear back from them, when you're discussing all the details. This helps you to get as many people as possible to respond back to you, once again to open that line of communication. But still here, you're only going to be bringing in the people that'll actually be interested in doing something like this, or at least open to the possibility of it. And this will allow you to iron out the fine details of it. So your initial purpose here is to just try to convince them that this might be worthwhile to do, and to give you a reply back to hear what else you have to say. Now, just like before, once you hear back from the person, you're going to have to work on your own reply mail to respond to them. This mail should work out all of the fine details about what it is that you are expecting from them. Things like the backlink from the article on their website to your own website, and or links possibly to your social media accounts. And this is your number one focus here. At the very, very least, this is the one thing that you should not be willing to budge on. If they cannot provide you with a backlink to your site, or at the very least backlinks to prominent social media accounts of yours, then it's not worth your while to be doing this, because you're not going to be getting any cross promotion for your own website. You're not going to be able to get any of the audience off of these other sites and bring them to you. So again here, with this initial contact, your goal is to try to get people to let you contribute a single article. You're not looking for a long-term deal here. You are looking to, once again, test the waters here. And once you do get an article published on another website, make sure you follow up with them to ensure that they also promote it to their audience. this should definitely be something that you are talking to them about when you are trying to get this deal arranged with them. So just be clear on your expectations, just like we were doing the first time around. You just want to be clear with your expectations here on what you're going to be giving them, what they're going to be giving you in return, so there are no misunderstandings or disagreements later on. Now, after you have an article published, whether this is taking place on your own website or on somebody else's website, you have to make sure that you follow up with these deals. I have 3 different things that I recommend for you to do after that article gets published, and this is no matter which one of these strategies you are doing. The first one of them is promote. You want to make sure that you are promoting the guest blog articles both on your site and on their site with your social media accounts and or your newsletter. And honestly, even if you're just getting started and you didn't even offer this as a benefit, do it anyways. You likely have a relatively low amount of people that it would be going to regardless, and it's not going to be that big of a deal for you. But even if you can send them a couple of extra people, or if they even notice that you did that for them, this is going to help you out a lot later on when you're trying to work out future deals with these people, getting those long-term agreements after you have tested the waters. Now, you could also add a sidebar link on your website to increase exposure even more. Let's say you contribute an article to somebody else's site. You could promote that not only with your social media accounts, but you could just add a sidebar link to it. Have a little sidebar menu down at the bottom of your sidebar that just says other articles I've written on, other websites, for example, and put a list of links there to help to cross-promote these articles for you. People will really take notice of this stuff, and you might also be increasing the exposure for these ventures. Now, you also want to make sure, obviously, that they are doing the same for you. You should have this in your agreement ahead of time, and also follow up with them to make sure that they actually live up to that end of the bargain. Go and take a look at their social media accounts and see if they actually publicly posted a link to your article, whether it's on your website or their website. Ultimately, though, you're looking to get the other person here to feel like this endeavor is worthwhile for them too. You want it to be worthwhile for you, but you don't want it to be one-sided. No matter how great of benefits you might be able to receive, if it's a one-sided deal, that's the only time you're ever going to see it. You want it to work out for both of you, and this way they will want and in fact be more than eager to solidify a long-term deal with you to continue the work in the future if they can see these benefits loud and clear. Now, the next thing that I recommend for you to do with your follow-up, this would be after an article is published, analyze the results from it. You should already be tracking your website traffic through Google Analytics, for example. You obviously can easily track your social media accounts and figure out how many followers you have and how frequently you are gaining new followers. You obviously have an easy way to track your Amazon earnings and traffic, and also your newsletter subscribers. You can go into pretty much any of these things on a day-by-day basis to get data on them, even to go back in history. So you could look at this, for example, a week after an article was published somewhere, and look and see if your traffic has gotten any better, if you gained more social media followers than normal, if you referred any extra Amazon sales that seem to be abnormal as well, if you picked up more newsletter subscribers than you normally do. All of these different things are factors in how effective these guest blogging exchanges really are, because your ultimate goal, no matter which one of those strategies you're pursuing, they should all be coming back to increasing one of these four things right here. So if they're not, it's not an effective campaign and not something that you should continue trying to pursue in the future, or at least not with that particular person. You want to go on and try to find some different candidates that will be able to offer you this extra exposure. So first of all, take note of the initial traffic that's going on right after an article gets published and you're cross-promoting it and they're cross-promoting it. That should be your initial moment, that first day, where your traffic and your increased followers and earnings, etc., should be at its peak. However, you also want to continue to monitor it after that time to see what it's doing. If you continue to get increased exposure from a contributed article, whether it's something you're writing or something somebody else is writing, if it continues over time, if it doesn't die off after a day or two, or maybe it dies off but it still stays at a halfway decent level that seems to be a little above and beyond what your normal articles are able to bring in, take note of those. They are the ones that you're ultimately looking to focus on, and heavily pursue those people to make sure you get long-term deals with them. You want to be contributing content to them or having them contribute content to you on some kind of a regular basis if you have surefire proof that that partnership with them is heavily beneficial for you. And as long as you've done your other work in terms of making sure that it's beneficial for them as well, then both of you should be on the same page here and be willing to work out this long-term partnership. Now, the third follow-up step that I have for you is follow-up contact. Obviously, after an article has been published and you send them an email letting them know, if it's getting published on your website, to let them know to do that cross-promotion, to send it out to their social media accounts. You have that initial contact. But beyond that, about a week or so after your article is published, I would recommend for you to contact the person again. And this is especially the case if you want to be pursuing a long-term deal with them for future contributions. So if you're happy with the results that you analyzed in the previous step, thank them for the opportunity and then immediately make them an offer to do future contributions on some kind of a regular schedule. This could be whatever seems to work out the best for the two of you. It could be once a week, bi-weekly, monthly. If you could even find somebody that would, for example, contribute articles to your website on a daily basis, obviously that would be great. But you don't necessarily want to push all of these people into trying to do that heavy of a commitment, especially if you know that they're also writing for their own website or contributing to a number of different websites. You may just want to try to get them once a week to contribute. And then if you could get 7 different contributors that are willing to give you an article once a week, then you would have a post every single day, and it would be from a different contributor each day of the week, which would also kind of help to spice up the variety of the content that you have to offer to your readers. Now, make sure here, when you are doing this follow-up contact, if you want to pursue that future deal with them, put specific information in that email about it. This email is going to be the one that's most likely to be opened after you have worked out that initial deal with them. You send them another email after that, they're almost certain to open that mail. So this is where you want to try to pursue that long-term deal with this person as long as you're happy with the results. And get specific once again about everything that you are looking for, what you are expecting, what they can expect from you, and even time frames, in terms of how frequent the contributions will be happening. So all of this specific information will help you to get a concrete agreement worked out with somebody, and also help you to avoid future problems and disagreements that can actually end up leading to these deals ending. You think you find the perfect person, and maybe you forget, or they forget, something in that agreement, and then you guys get a couple of posts into it, and one of you just like, hey, you're not doing this, and the other person's like, hey, well, I never agreed to that, and you get into a big fight about it. It can ruin things that really would have worked out just fine if everything had just been clarified ahead of time. So personally, I find this to be really, really important. Make sure you get everything worked out so there's no confusion or gray area there in terms of what's going to be happening. Now, to this point, you should have all the tools and knowledge in your possession to pull off this entire strategy, not just the guest blogging end of it, but the entire website using this blogging strategy. However, I have a few additional tips that I would like to discuss with you guys that can help you in terms of future expansion that you're going to be doing on these sites. You'll reach a point where you feel like you've followed everything through the course as it should be, and all you're really doing after then is just adding new content to the site on a regular basis. And you might be wondering what should be done next. How do I make it a little bit better? And so that is what these tips are designed to help you do. The first one that I need to talk to you about is advertising. Initially in this course, I recommended for you to do a 7-to-1 ratio with your advertising and to keep advertising pretty low-key on your website. And there's a really, really good reason why I recommend for it to be done this way. If I simply list all the different ways that you could possibly do this advertising, a lot of people would simply pile all of them on their website initially when they're first getting started. And this can really hurt you in terms of building that initial audience that you need and landing some of these guest blogging contracts, things of that nature. So you don't want to pile all this advertising on all at once. You want to do this gradually over time so you're not overwhelming your readers, and also so you're not overwhelming guest bloggers and search engines and everything else that has come to get used to your website being a particular way. However, when you do reach a point where you feel like you have at least some kind of a base of loyal readers, where you're putting out a new article each day, and you can be certain that there are at least some people that are browsing your website on a regular basis and coming back to it to read even more. You should be able to see your traffic levels growing at this point. and likely have maybe even done some guest blogging exchanges already to boost your exposure even more. Once you reach this point, I do actually recommend for you to increase your advertising beyond that 7-to-1 ratio on the site. But again, this should be done gradually and not all of a sudden. I have 3 different ways to recommend to you to increase your level of advertising. This may be adding more advertisements to your website, or it may also simply be driving more traffic from non-advertising portions of your website to advertising portions of your website. First one here, add a sidebar ad for a specific product that closely fits your niche, and this should also be one of those products that one of your readers would likely want to buy over and over and over again. Even if it was only going to be once a month or once every couple of months, try to pick out your best-selling product on the entire website and spotlight it in the sidebar of your site. And this would be something that would show up on essentially every page throughout your whole website, except for perhaps your home page and your category pages. Now the next thing you can do is to obviously increase the frequency of your advertisement post, but you don't want to be replacing your content post by doing so. You want to instead just be adding an extra advertisement post to the normal content posting that is going on. So maybe eventually get to the point where you're doing 2 advertisement posts every week. So it would be more like a 3.5-to-1 ratio. But again, this is something you can do gradually. You don't have to do it all of a sudden. Start making an ad post every 6 days, and then every 5 days, and then every 4 days. Another thing that you can do, and this does not require actually adding any more advertising to the website, but this is more designed to push more traffic from the non-advertising parts of your site to the advertising parts. And that is to interlink your content post with your advertisement post. You can do this manually by going through individual content posts and finding relevant words, especially down towards the end of the article. So when somebody is finished reading an article, they might continue on to go and check out this relational advertisement. Or you can also go to your advertisement post. Look for the SEO settings box down below the editor where you're putting all the content for your post. Look for the links tab in that box, and then you can set inbound auto link anchors here, where you're basically just putting a word or a keyword phrase, and you can list multiple of them. And anytime that is found elsewhere on your website, it will link up in the content to those advertising posts. So this helps to funnel your traffic into your money pages. And this also helps to benefit your search rankings as well. When you do this type of a tactic, and you could see this being done on major websites. Wikipedia is a really great example of it. As you're reading through their content, all throughout it, you have all these other interlinking words that jump to other pages of their site. Google looks at this type of stuff and highly respects that type of linking strategy, and you can really boost the search rankings of your advertising post with that type of tactic. Let's see, Lee is asking, why would the same person want to buy over and over again for a specific product in the sidebar ad? It's really geared towards the type of website that we're doing here, where we had discussed using a niche or a type of product that is something that people would purchase over and over again. The carbon fiber vinyl for my niche is a really prime example of this. Some type of relational product that fits with your niche that is used up. So over the course of time, they're going to need more of it to continue working in it. Now, not all of your products are going to be like that, but if you can identify something in your niche that is a product like that, then obviously you can leave that one advertisement in the sidebar, and the chances of your regular loyal readers purchasing through that ad more than just one time would go up. That is a possibility, Alice. She is asking if they go to Amazon and buy something like that, why wouldn't they just keep going back to Amazon instead of to your site? Well, that's also what the recurring contact part of this strategy is all about, having them on as a follower of a social media account or having them as a newsletter subscriber. You're bringing these people back into your websites. So it's not that they would necessarily think, you know, I'm just going to go right back to Amazon to buy this product, but it might be more a case of, you know, they're just on Facebook each day and they see a new post from you and they go to your website and start reading the posts like they do every day, for example. And then, you know, maybe one day they just finished using the last of whatever that product was and they needed to order more. Once people get in the habit of visiting your site and reading your content on a regular basis, they kind of begin to build a bit of a relationship with you, even if you don't actually have any interaction with them. And you will have a lot of people that will, on purpose, make sure that they actually do buy it through your website because they know you're going to be receiving a commission from the sale. Oh, you're welcome, Alice. Lee, it could be a category if you couldn't find a particular product, if there just wasn't something like carbon fiber vinyl in your niche, a product that somebody would buy and use up and then they would need to buy more of it, then you might be better off linking up to perhaps a category or a certain search. You can do like brand name searches on Amazon and link up to that kind of thing. That could be a feasible possibility, but if you do have a specific product like my carbon fiber vinyl example where that product will be used up and they will need to purchase it again, then I do recommend putting actually a specific product advertisement there. Just whatever seems to be your most common seller. So for my site it would be something like a black carbon fiber vinyl, and I would pick not one of the massive rolls of one that would be really high priced, but I'd be looking to pick one of the smaller sizes that people frequently buy on a regular basis. Now, to continue on from here, I briefly wanted to mention once again about these three different methods here. You do not necessarily have to add in all of these as you progress. If one of them or two of them are more appealing to you than others, work on those, especially since this is something that you should be gradually incorporating into your site. You don't need to go through all three of them all at the same time and put them in your site. So you should be going through them one at a time. And it's not important to incorporate all of them, but if you would like to incorporate all of them, that is okay to do. Just make sure you give your site plenty of time to be able to grow before you start piling all of these advertisements on it. There are websites out there that get millions of unique daily visitors, and they're absolutely covered in advertisements. But I can guarantee you that they didn't begin that way. Facebook didn't begin that way. Facebook, all the advertisements that are all over it now, when it first started, there was no advertising on Facebook whatsoever. They didn't make a penny. They weren't trying to. They were trying to get people interested in their site. They were trying to build that loyal audience first before they start putting some of them off with all of this extra advertising. Now, beyond the advertising, I have a couple of tips for you in terms of future expansion for content for your website. As you progress, you may find that you start having problems coming up with ideas for new posts. But in truth, there are a ton of potential topics out there for, I'm convinced, any niche if you really search and think about it hard enough. Beyond your specific niche itself, for my site, Carbon Fiber, obviously not every single post on my site is going to be about carbon fiber vinyl or even carbon fiber at all. I can stray into other relational topics, like talking about specific models of cars or trucks or other kinds of vehicles. I can talk about racing and parts and different, aspects of driving or working on a car, for example. While they're not my exact niche, they are all relational subjects, and I can guarantee you Google looks at that kind of stuff. They're not looking for a carbon fiber website to be 100% about carbon fiber. It's bound to have information about other relational subjects in it, because that's what websites are really all about. So I have a few additional suggestions for you here for content posts that can really apply to pretty much any niche, beyond getting a little more general with your niche, to find some additional content topics like what I was just referring to with carbon fiber and talking about cars and racing and things of that nature. You also have two particular things, and one of them, the first one, is news. I have done this personally before myself with crazy good results. National or popular online news, and honestly, you could even go local news for this matter, as long as it has some kind of a decent audience that is being exposed to that news. You can browse those news stories to find things relational to your niche. And in most cases, you're going to have to think a little more on the broad scale here with your niche in terms of the topic. So I would most likely not be able to find a lot of news stories about carbon fiber vinyl, but I guarantee you I could find hundreds or thousands of them about cars and a lot of other relational subjects. These could be press releases from various companies talking about new models or features or parts or things of that nature coming out. Or it could just be stuff like research or something about car pollution. Whatever the case may be, as long as it somehow ties back into what my website is about. It could be a possibility to use this story to help me bring in more traffic for my site. So what you're looking to do here is find that relational news story, and you want to create one post on your site specifically about that news story. So you would have different posts for different news stories. Do not copy the news articles at all. They are heavily copyrighted, and you just don't even want to mess with that. But what you can do is talk about it. Basic facts that are in articles, things that are in press releases and stuff like that. You know, you can talk about an article without actually copying it and violating any of that type of stuff. But make sure you're using some of the keywords used in the article. Look at the title of the article. Look at the main points that are in the article, and try to think of what people might be looking for more information about. Because this happens all the time, every day, every single second of every single day. You have people that are out there. They see a news story on TV, they read it in the paper, they read it online, and they want more information about it. They want to find out more. So then they go to Google and they start searching for it. That's where you come in. You put up your content post about the news article, giving a mention of it and talking about it briefly, but the main chunk of the content of the article should actually be your opinion or point of view on it. So, for example, let's say Ford releases a new model of Mustang next year. I could write an article about it, maybe even put a picture in it, as long as I can find something from Ford that has been approved for use by media, for example. And then I can talk about that car, say what I think about it, talk about the design, talk about the performance, all these other different aspects. It's an opinion piece on what is likely going to be a factual-based news story. And you can attract a lot of traffic this way by making these relational news stories on your sites. Now, you obviously have, when the first news story is going on, that's when, you know, your traffic levels relating to that story are going to be at their most popular. However, it doesn't mean that it's going to be traffic that comes in really quick and then, you know, the next day or a couple days after it's gone. This is traffic that can linger for potentially even years. A lot of times you will have news stories that get revisited and updated. This can help to refresh the traffic. Sometimes they can get picked up by other local or national news outlets and get syndicated again, and that could help to refresh the traffic that is coming in on it. Even beyond that, though, you still have people that just simply go back through old news stories and might want to find out more information about it. They might be searching something on Google and they run across the news story and they read it and then they want to find out more information about that, so they go searching on it. I've got articles sitting around from 5, 6, 7 years ago that I wrote on a specific news story in my local area that I can't fathom why anybody would still want to know anything about it, and I still get daily search traffic for it. So I can tell you from personal experience, really useful strategy right here to try to pursue. Now the next strategy that I want to talk to you about here, and this is the final one that I have to discuss with you, but it's a little more in-depth, and this is events. You have a lot of different events for all kinds of different industries. Writing articles about these events can do the same thing that writing the news stories can do, except I honestly like the events even better. These can bring even more long-term traffic from one single article, and a lot of times you don't even have to update them. You really have two different kinds of events that I like to split all events into when I am thinking about them for this particular strategy. You have your one-time events and you have your recurring events. The one-time events can sometimes end up turning into a recurring event. They host some kind of a concert or special get-together somewhere, and it ends up being really popular, and then later on they announce that they're going to turn it into an annual thing. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. It's okay either way, but I just simply wanted to point out that sometimes those one-time events turn into recurring events, even if they were not that way to begin with. Even if you only get a one-time event, you can still get a lot of traffic by writing about them if you can find out about them ahead of time. So let's say I know that this coming winter sometime, maybe there's going to be a car show somewhere, or maybe there's going to be something very specific about a carbon fiber event, maybe a manufacturer, maybe 3M is having a one-time event and they're going to be revealing some new carbon fiber products. Anything like that, relational to your niche, or even getting a little broader than your niche, is something that you really want to take notice of. You want to hunt down as many of these as you possibly can and create a post on your site about each individual event. So for the one-time events, if you can find them ahead of time, you will receive the most benefit in terms of traffic, but that's obviously going to be something that decreases when the event and or the news coverage about that event is over. But still, over the course of time, even years into the future, you'll still have people searching for information about those one-time events, especially if it was something where products are revealed. Like if it was a car show, people might be searching for information about a particular car show. Even if it was a one-time thing, they still might be searching for things that they've heard about it for years and years into the future. Now with the recurring events, these are ultimately the gold mines that you're really looking for. Don't completely ignore the one-time events, but if you have an overwhelming number of events that you could possibly cover in your niche, and you have a choice, focus on more of the recurring events, more so than the one-time events. The car shows for my niche are a really great example. I bet I can find hundreds, if not thousands, of annual car shows or something car-related like that just in the USA alone. And I bet these are all recurring events, things that happen every single year like clockwork, maybe even on the same dates or in the same month of a particular year. So then when you can find events like this for something relating to your own niche, you create content posts about those events. And you can get the same result as the one-time event, except it refreshes every single year. So even if you're late on it, let's say you just found out about a car show that happened last week, and you go and write a post about it, and maybe you don't see a ton of traffic from it over the course of the next year. Guess what? When 51 weeks roll past, you're going to see some more exposure from that post. So what I would really recommend to do for the events, try to find a couple of annual events that are taking place each and every month throughout the entire year, and then create content about each of them on your site. That way, every single month throughout the whole year, you will always have a couple of these event posts that will be in high demand, where people are going to actively be searching for information about them because the event is coming back around again. This gives you a really easy and very powerful automatic source of regular traffic from those posts. as long as you're not going into major events like if you're trying to cover the big electronic convention, for example, that happens every single year, you know, obviously you're going to have a lot of other people and websites and news coverage and stuff about those kind of events. So you're not looking for the crazy huge things. You're looking for more of the local events, things that are just taking place in individual cities throughout the country. You know for sure if you have a car show somewhere in the USA, people searching for information on that car show, they're probably going to live in the USA too. And when you're promoting your Amazon.com products, obviously you can attract a massive percentage of the ideal traffic that you're really looking for on your websites this way. So once you have found an event, you have some information that you want to try to record about that event and transfer this information over to your site. Obviously, you don't want to do this verbatim. You don't want to be copying it straight. But, you know, basic facts and things like the day or the time or the cost of an event. There's not really many ways that you can rephrase things like that. I'm really more talking about information for the event in terms of what's going to be going on there. That information, try to make as unique as you possibly can. Other information, though, you may simply need to rehash on your own website. But the whole point here is to give people enough information on your own website about this event to satisfy them or to make them want to go and learn more from it. And this can also obviously get you these search rankings that you're looking for keywords relating to these events. Put the event name in the title of whatever post it is that you're creating. But if it's something you're expecting to come back around again every single year, don't put the date in the title. You can maybe list dates and years in the actual content of that post, and maybe even go back once a year and update it with the new dates and new information for the coming year. But you don't want to brand the title of your event post to a particular year, because you want this to be something that continues to have popularity and relevance every single year for many years to come until the event basically just stops running. So first of all, make sure you record the website URL about the event. Try to find the official page for it. And you actually want to put a do follow link, something that Google can follow and index on your post on your website, going to that official event website. Google loves this kind of stuff, and a lot of people don't do it because they don't want to send traffic to these other websites. Well, sometimes directing somebody to another website is expected. It is the useful thing to do for them. Provide all the information you can about the event, and then at the very bottom of your post, say if you would like to find out more information, you can go check out the official website for blah 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 event. Go here. Here's the website URL. People will appreciate you for doing this, and Google will show its appreciation for this as well. List all of your event dates, times, and cost. This is going to be information that people are going to want to know, and it may also be information that people are searching for. When you go and type into Google, when is such and such, if you have a page about that event and you have the times and dates and stuff on your page, Google might put you as one of the possible search results for searches like that. They have gotten really intuitive with things like that over the years, and they're just going to continue to grow in that direction. So list all the information you can about cost, the date, the time of the event, even the year, if those dates and times pertain to one particular year. Now, if you can, try to update it once a year just to give new information about the new year, but don't get rid of the old information. That way, when people go searching for information or things about this particular event in a particular year in the past, they can come across your website. You also want to have as much information as you can about the event location. Include the name of the event location if it's in a particular building or convention center or something of that nature. Make sure you are specifying that. Give them the address, phone numbers, nearby buildings and roads, the city and the state that it's in. All this information is going to help to boost your search rankings for this event and for relational search phrases. And not only that, it's useful information that people are going to want to find when they come to this page. Now I have 3 more types of information here, talking about the same thing, events here. The next one being event rules. If there are particular things about an event that pretty much all attendees would need to know, make sure you're mentioning this on your site. People will be searching for stuff like this. If you have a car show and there are particular rules about, what you can and can't bring, maybe there's rules on an event for dress code and things of that nature. Any point of importance there that you can identify that people are going to be interested in or things that they're going to need to know. This is all information you want to be sure to relay on your own page. You also have basic event information. What will actually be happening at the event? Could be vendors, performers, special event features, all this kind of stuff. What's really going on at the event are going to be things that people search for, either before the event or after the event. But don't copy the actual official event information. Try to rephrase this into your own words. You want this to be unique content if at all possible. Also, one final thing are event opinions. Beyond everything else that I've talked about, which would be all the information that people would need to know about an event, also include some unique content that nobody could else possibly have relating to that event, and that would be your opinion about the event. Just like you are doing with the news stories, you can do the same type of thing here with events and simply give your opinion on it. What you think about the upcoming event. Once it is actually over with, you could give your opinions on how it actually went, especially if you can find some kind of news story that was done after the event. You can sometimes use that information, or if there's any way that you can attend yourself, take pictures, and have this kind of stuff on the post on your site. This kind of thing gets massive exposure over the years. If you actually attend these events and can give information about specific vendors and products and have pictures of all this stuff, you can make a really, really useful website that's going to be appealing to people, and I can guarantee you that really in-depth pages like that on these events are going to attract great search engine rankings and be able to bring a lot of traffic to you. Now, if you can't attend these events in person, that is quite all right. Obviously, that's not something that would really be feasible to do when you're first getting started, especially if the event is not somewhere in your local area. But, if something comes along in your local area that does relate, and it wouldn't really be that big of a deal for you to go there and to do something like that, to record information about it and take some pictures and stuff like that. By all means do that if you can do it cheaply. Eventually you could maybe reach the point where it would be cost effective to spend $500 or $1,000 to take a trip somewhere to go to one of these events, to do all this coverage for it. But obviously that's not something that you would want to do when you're first getting started. You would need a really big audience to be able to justify something like that. That's a good question, Alice. Would you need a press pass? She is asking. It kind of will depend on the event, honestly. There are some where they will allow you to, just normal attendees to walk around, and, they're welcome to take photographs and, get information, get brochures and stuff from all these people. And, you can go back and take that information and put it up on your website without having press pass or any kind of official credentials of that nature. But there are some kinds of events where you may be able to pay to get in, but then they also might actually offer press passes. You do not technically need to be a real news organization to get a press pass from a lot of places. I have had press passes before to events that I have covered on websites of mine, more in my local area, but some of these were pretty exclusive events. One in particular, there was a fashion show that was going on in my local area. I have a website having to do with some relational subjects, and I was thinking about actually buying a ticket for this fashion show, which was going to be, I can't remember what it was, but it was not exactly cheap. And then I started browsing through their website a little bit more and found, something for media and how you, request your press pass. All you really do is use your website as your media outlet. And this is common these days. It's not something that is, going to shock somebody. They're not going to be like, oh, well, you need an official, news company or something like that. You have all these different websites out there that solely operate online, and they commonly go to, events like this and will get press passes issued to them. When you go through those official channels, though, and actually get it done that way, if it is available, it won't cost you anything. They'll hand all that stuff to you free. They'll let you in the event free. They'll give you all that special access for free. And, you obviously can't really beat that. So that is a really good question. I'm glad you asked that, actually. Look for that. If it is possible to get that, try for it. Let them know what website you're from. Tell them that you have an audience in, that particular area or interested in that kind of niche or industry or, whatever the event is about, and let them know that you are interested in writing an article to cover their event, and, you request your press credentials in that manner. And I can tell you from experience it works. Maybe not every time, but they'll let you in. And they'll let you in for free and give you the hookup too. I had front row seats at that fashion show. Even though I'm not really, it's more my wife that likes the fashion stuff than me, but we were both involved. Actually, was able to get 2 press passes for that. I'm the writer and she was the photographer. Now, this concludes the series and also my additional tips that I have to offer for you guys. But if there is anything that you would like to know relating to this class or even the entire series for that matter, I don't mind at all if you would like to take this opportunity to ask me any questions that you may have remaining at this point.